I'll yell at you. Okay, so the good news is, if you do pay attention, you're going to go, oh my heck, I can do this, and I can do hard things, and that's good. Okay, so this is what we went over last time, remember, is the Pythagorean Theorem. So remember what the Pythagorean Theorem does, and I told you, you had to know the Pythagorean Theorem and how to do it correctly to get today's lesson correct. That's still true. So in order to find a missing side of a right triangle, remember you have to set up a true statement. Correct, everybody? Yeah. So you got to be really careful because this is the hypotenuse, which is across from the 90 degrees, and that always has to go on the outside of the equation. So one side squared plus the other side squared equals the hypotenuse squared. Okay, so if we would have been given the hypotenuse, that would have gone there, and we would have done algebra. So then we have 28 plus 16, not 28, 7 squared. 49 plus 16, what is that? So we have 65 equals question mark squared. Am I done? Square root both sides of the equation, so that root cancels out with power. So then we would break this down by hand if possible. So everybody, let's see if we can find factors of 65. Okay, cool. 13 times 5. Now, unfortunately for us, I mean, it's not that unfortunate, but those don't break down anymore, right? So you'd say, I can't break it down. A lot of you, decimals, you're not going to write decimals. So I'm going to say that again. Because 65 did not break down, we'd say, okay, we'll just put them back together. So we'll leave our answer as the square root of 65. Does everybody understand? Cool. You can do it. Awesome. Here we go. So here is where we're starting. So you might want to take, well, you'll be taking some notes in a minute. So the good news is, though, I'll teach it better than your other teacher, so you'll be fine, okay? Here we go. So everybody listen. If you have a right triangle, do you see how I then have a theta, an angle? That just means we have an angle. Does everybody understand? Now from that angle, if you go directly across, do you see how I hit this side? That's going to be considered the opposite side. Everybody get that? Makes sense? Come directly across. Hypotenuse is always across from the 90-degree angle, so that would be that side, and then thus, this has to be considered my adjacent side. Everybody? Okay, now, does everybody understand? Now, I can put theta anywhere except for the 90 degrees. So let me change this up. Let me draw a right triangle and put theta here. You can't always say, okay, so this side's always the opposite, this side's always the adjacent, the hypotenuse is always the same, but you got to be careful. So which side would this be that I just drew from theta? Would it be opposite or adjacent? We drew straight across, opposite. What about this side? Adjacent, because this is the hypotenuse. Let me draw another right triangle. I'm going to put theta there. What would this side be? Opposite. What would this side be? Hypotenuse and adjacent. Okay, if you can do that, you can do that's the hardest part, is getting that part, yes. We're going to get to harder stuff later, but we're going to start out with the very basics today. Okay, so then these three, if that's true, if you have a theta and a right triangle, and you have opposite, hypotenuse, and adjacent, these three trig ratios always hold true. So it goes like this. Sine of theta is opposite over hypotenuse. So from theta, your opposite side over your hypotenuse. And then you're done. That's all you got to do. Cosine is your adjacent side over your hypotenuse. So you go to theta, you put this side over this side. Does everybody get what I'm saying? Yeah, we're going to do it in a second. Tangent of theta, well, I'm just going to give you a saying. Tangent of theta is opposite over adjacent. Does everybody see? You have to have those memorized. So here's a saying that many of you might like. So the first thing I do to remember these is I write down in this order sine, cosine, tangent. So everybody write that down where it says what are the three trig ratios, right? Sine of theta, cosine of theta, you need to make sure you put in your theta. These little things are what get people that are learning this for the first time. They just write sine. No, it's sine of theta. So write sine of theta, cosine theta, tangent theta. Don't write down this part yet. I'm going to give you a saying. So just write sine of theta on number 1 on your worksheet. On number 2, write cosine of theta. Don't write this part. And on number 3, write tangent of theta. Now here's how the saying goes that everybody has different little tricks and whatnot. So everybody like this one. Say it, so I'll say it. Oh heck, another hour of agony. Some of you feel that way about math. So I'll say it again. Oh heck, another hour of agony. Say it with me. Ready? Oh heck, another hour of agony. One more time. Oh heck, another hour of agony. We're not. Okay, everybody good. Okay, now there's another way that other people learn to memorize it. It's called like so sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and then tangent is opposite over adjacent. Yeah. No, because that doesn't start with an M. Okay. All right. So luckily, so the first thing I do when I get to my test or anything with this is I write down sine, cosine, tangent, and then I say to myself, oh heck, another hour of agony. Okay, does everybody get it? So literally, every time in my head, if I say, okay, it's asking me to find the cosine, I say that's the second one, that's, oh heck, that's another hour. And then that helps me. Okay, here we go. So everybody, on number 1 through 3, write down those trig ratios. So make sure you have in, oh heck, another hour of agony. Does everybody have that in? Okay, cool. Perfect. Yeah, write down whatever will help you remember. But you're going to hear me say it as, oh heck, another hour of agony. Here we go. So, here's my first example. All my examples are coming off your worksheet. So everybody go to number 4. So like he said, that's a lot of numbers. You can't get caught up in all the numbers. So what the first thing you're going to check is, do I have all the sides on the triangle? So we're good. We don't need to do Pythagorean Theorem. Now we can answer the question. It says, find cosine of theta. So you'd say to yourself, okay, what's the true statement here? Cosine of theta is, oh heck, isn't it another hour? Yeah. Perfect. So now you have to go to theta. Go to theta. We need to put our adjacent side over our hypotenuse side. So from theta, what would this side be? Opposite, this would be adjacent, this would be hypotenuse. So we're going to put our adjacent side, which is 18, divided by our hypotenuse, which is 18 root 2. That's it. No, that's it. It said find cosine of theta. Didn't we do that? So we're done. We're not solving for it. We're finding, it's asking us, so that's what people get confused on in this unit, is they think you need to go further. This is literally saying find cosine. Didn't we do that? Isn't cosine adjacent over hypotenuse? We're done. However, the only thing we would do is say, that's my answer, but does my answer simplify? So don't you see how we have an 18 on top and an 18 on bottom? You would divide both of those by 18. So this becomes a don't make algebra mistakes. What does that become? 1. So we have a 1 on top. What does that become? 1. So our final answer would be 1 over 1 times root 2. I wouldn't mark it wrong if you wrote that. However, it's unnecessary to write 1 times root 2 because 1 times anything is just itself. So I would just write it like this. You can. I won't mark it wrong. All good? That was easy. No, that's what we're doing. So number 6, it says find tangent of theta. Now you have to look. Do I have all the sides? Yes. Okay, so we can go ahead and answer the question. So what's the saying here? What the heck? Stop doing that. Stop. Okay, so tangent of theta is, oh heck, another hour, isn't it, of agony? Yes. Okay, so now go to theta. What is your opposite side? 8, so that goes on top. And what's our adjacent side? From theta. Careful. Yeah, because that's hypotenuse, so this is adjacent here. So then 8 over 15. Now you'd say to yourself, that is my answer. It asked me to find tangent. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. Didn't we find that? Yes. We are done. That's it. That's it. That really is it. Well, the thing is this doesn't simplify, right? Yeah. Okay. What I want you to do is number 5. Ready, set, go. I'm just going to wait right here while you do number 5 all by yourself, and then we're going to do another example.
Wait, what was that one?
We just did number 6.
I put number 6.
Okay, switch them. So you're going to go to number 5, and then I'm going to ask you to shout out the answer in a minute, but you got to do it by yourself. So when you did sine of theta on number 5, what did you get? What was it before you simplified? Did everybody get that far?
Yes, I did.
Awesome. So then our final answer would be 1 over root 2 or 1 over 1 times root 2. Everybody see?
Yeah.
Was that easy? Cool. Okay, let's do another one. Number 7. So it says find cosine of theta. Now notice the first thing we need to check is, do we have all the sides here? 12, 5, and oopsies. Before we can find cosine of theta, hey, focus, focus. Before we can find cosine of theta, we need to go through and say, I can't find cosine. I'm going to hurry and find question mark. Does that make sense? Make sure you don't stop. If people get confused and stop after they find question mark, we're just pushing pause on the actual question. So let's quickly over here find question mark. So Pythagorean Theorem, set it up correctly for me. Shout it out. What should I be putting here? Yep. Good. Equals hypotenuse squared, right? So everybody hurry quickly, do it in your calculator because you guys are all borrowing mine. What is it? 169 equals hypotenuse squared. So then next step, yep, square root both sides of the equation. So then we would break this down. 13 times 13. So 13 doesn't break down any further. Well, but 13, we can pull out groups of 2. Isn't there 2 of them? So make sure we don't pull out 2 13s. We only pull out a 13 for the 2 13s. So didn't the actual root go away in this one? 13 equals h. So now you just say, okay, cool. Now I can actually answer the question. So cosine of theta is what's saying? Oh, heck, another hour. So go to theta. What's your adjacent side?
5.
5. And your hypotenuse is 13. And didn't we answer cosine of theta is that? That's what we were asked to find, so we're literally done. No, just one extra step. Okay, do 8 and 9. You're going to have to go through and Pythagorean Theorem those bad boys and then answer it.
No.
Doing 8, oops, I'm frozen. When doing 8 root 6 in your calculator, 8 root 6 squared, it's actually that whole thing squared. So this is what you have to do, guys. When you have this, you've got to go like this. That's 8 squared and root 6 squared. They're both squared. So you'll have to type it in like that, or you'll get it wrong. Yep, so 12 over 12 simplifies to be, and there you go. This one is no harder, but here is what is harder about this one. You have to draw a correct picture. So notice they didn't give you the picture, so you're going to have to draw one. Okay, so this one's a little bit harder because you have to draw a correct picture. So first of all, you'd say to yourself, everybody focusing or you're not going to understand this, you'll do it wrong. It says find cosine of theta if sine of theta is 12 over 13. So we don't know anything about cosine. We're going to find that in a minute, but we do know that our sine of theta is 12 over 13. Which sides are those? Sine is opposite over hypotenuse, correct? Oh, heck. So let's draw ourselves a picture. So what you're going to do is you're going to draw yourself in a right triangle. Do not put in 12 and 13 yet, because that all depends on where you put your theta. Where do you want to put theta? Up here or down here? Down here. Okay, let's put our theta in down here. And now we can appropriately draw the picture, but you have to put in the theta before you put in 12 or 13, because you got to put it in the correct spot. So from this theta, our opposite side is 12. So look, I'm going to go across and write 12. My hypotenuse from theta is 13. Does everybody see? So now all we have to do is say, okay, now it's the same thing we just did. We've got to hurry and find question mark. We'll push pause on finding cosine until we find question mark. Let's set up a true statement. This squared plus this squared equals this squared. So question mark squared plus 12 squared equals 13 squared. Is everybody mentally caught up to me and understanding? So let's do the algebra now. Don't get thrown off by these. It's just algebra, guys. What is 12 squared? 144. Which equals, isn't this 169, I think? And now you say, I'm trying to solve for question mark. So my first step is subtract 144. You said it's what? So question mark squared equals 25. Now a lot of you keep putting that as your answer, but we still have question mark squared. We want just question mark. So my last step is square root it. So root cancels out with power, so question mark equals 5. So you'd say, okay, cool, that's not my answer. That was all just so I could find cosine. So now we can go ahead and say cosine of theta is, oh heck, it's another hour. So our adjacent side from theta is 5, and our hypotenuse is 13. And now we've answered the question. It said find cosine. We did. And our answer doesn't simplify. Just because we had to hurry and draw a picture. But that wasn't that bad, right? You have to draw a correct picture though. So what were my steps? First, drawing a right triangle, putting in a 90-degree angle, putting in a theta, and then putting the places in the correct spot. It doesn't matter, but you do have to put these things in the right spot. So what if this would have been, let's do maybe, you want one more example like that? Yeah. Okay, number 11, here we go. It says find the tangent of theta if cosine of theta is this. So you say to yourself, okay, I've got to draw a right triangle. Here we go, draw it, right triangle, put in theta. Now I don't know where anything goes until I look at this. So cosine is, oh heck, it's another hour. So we're given our adjacent side is this. So go to theta, go to your adjacent side, and write that in. Does everybody understand? Yes? Yeah. Okay, now my hypotenuse we're given is 23. So I'm going to go to my hypotenuse, which is across from the 90, put in 23. So you'd say, bummer, I need to hurry and go through and find question mark. So the true statement, again, is this squared plus this squared. So 8 root 7 squared plus question mark squared equals 23, our hypotenuse squared. Now, once again, because there's an 8 and a root 7, you've got to square both of those. So 448 plus question mark squared equals, what's 23 squared? Thank you. So now next step to get question mark alone. Good. So I have question mark squared equals 81. Sweet. Now we have to square root both sides. Square root of 81 breaks down into 9 and 9. And then since there's 2 of them, we'll just pull out a 9, right? Too fast. Okay, so we know question mark is 9. So let's write that in and say, okay, now I can answer it. Now it asks us to find tangent of theta. So you go off to the side and say, okay, tangent of theta is, oh heck, another hour. It's of agony. So go to theta. What's your opposite side? 9. What's our adjacent side? 8 root 7. And then you'd say, okay, cool, that is my answer. I found tangent. Tangent's opposite over adjacent. I've done that. Does my answer simplify? 9 and 8 don't have anything in common. And you can never divide something that's under a radical with something that's not. So we're good. This is our answer. Can you do that one by yourself? Another one by yourself now? Yes. Do number 12. Check it off with me, then I know we can move on. We're going to skip to 15. Here we go. So everybody go to 15 with me. It's dumb if you're not doing these because I'm doing them with you off of your paper. So 15 says, find sine, cosine, and tangent. Find sine of theta, cosine theta, tangent of theta. So in this one, we just have to find all 3, which isn't that big of a deal. So you have to look at your triangle and say, oh, crapola, I've got to set up a true statement and solve for my hypotenuse in this one. So it'd be 15 squared plus 13 squared equals hypotenuse squared. Solving for hypotenuse, you get 394, goes out up to be 394 equals hypotenuse squared. Then you square root both sides of the equation. Root cancels out with power. So then I'd say, does 394 break down? I tried breaking it down. Dividing it by many things, couldn't find anything. So it doesn't break down, so don't we just leave it? Yeah, right? So now go to your hypotenuse, write square root of 394. Is everybody caught up mentally? So now you say, cool, now I can find sine, cosine, tangent. So write sine of theta, cosine theta, tangent theta, and then go through your saying. So sine is going to be, oh heck, another hour of agony. So now make sure you go to theta, and now we can answer it. Okay, I'm going to let you catch up. Okay, so now here we go. You say, okay, I'm going to go to the correct theta. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So 13 over root 394. And I'm done, right? That is sine. Now let's find cosine, our adjacent over hypotenuse. I'm drawing it in green. Adjacent is 15, and hypotenuse is root 394. Sweet, I'm done with cosine. Changing colors again, maybe to brown. And then opposite over adjacent. So 13 over 15, and I'm done. So there's nothing harder, it's just answering all three of them. So nothing harder, just answering all three instead of just find sine. No, it's not bad. Just answering all three instead of just one of them. So same thing. Do we need one more, number 16? And then I'll let you go for it for a while. Okay. Yeah, you can just watch this one, and then I can let you just write down the answer for this one. We're going to come back to those. So here we go. Go to 16. If you want to just watch this one so that you can like comprehend it and then write down the answer, I'm fine with that. You can just write down. You don't even have to write down the work. You can just write down the answer. So you say to yourself, okay, I'm asked to find sine of theta, cosine theta, tangent theta, but I'm missing the hypotenuse. So I've got to do the correct Pythagorean theorem. This side plus this side equals this side. So 7 squared plus 14 squared equals question mark squared in this one. There's my true statement. So solving for question mark, I'm going to add these up. So you get 245. So we have 245 equals question mark squared. You tell me what's the next step. I'm not trying to solve for question mark. Square root both sides. So root cancels out with power. Cool. Now we have to break this down. Now it does have things that it breaks down into. I divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and finally I got something. 5 times 49. So you say to yourself, do either of those break down more? 7 times 7, and aren't we done? Breaking it down. So now we'll pull out groups of 2, right? 49's not there, don't double dip. It's the opposite. Remember, you leave the house in groups of 2. So 7 root 5 equals question mark. Does everybody understand? So I go up here and write 7 root 5. Sweet, now I can start. So I go sine theta, cosine theta, tangent theta, and then I do my little saying, oh heck. Another hour of agony. So go to theta. Our opposite side from theta is 7. Our hypotenuse is 7 root 5, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we would do 7 over 7 root 5. Does it simplify? What does it become? And we're done. Now let's do change colors. Adjacent over hypotenuse. Adjacent is this side. Over hypotenuse is this side. So we have 14 over 7 root 5. Can I simplify my answer? What does it become? 2 over. Good. Now, how did we get that? That divided by 7 became a 2. That became a 1. Does everybody see? And then our last thing, we're almost there. Opposite over adjacent. So you go here, your opposite side 7, your adjacent side's 14. 7 over 14. That is my answer. Does it simplify? It becomes 1/2. You got to be really careful here because that's a common mistake as people say 2. But this divides by 7 and becomes 1. This divides by 7 and becomes 2. 1/2. So that would be my answer. Those 3 answers. Okay, I'll let you write those answers down and then I'll tell you which ones to do. So you already have them?
Yeah.
Through 24, ready, set, go. Yeah.